So the water vapor was actually coming out to be 80 cm cube. And so that's one. And then he says, treating the remaining gas mixture with concentrated alkali to absorb the carbon dioxide, the volume decreases to 110. So it decreases from 250 to 170, and then from 170 decreases to 110. So that means if it decreases from 170 to 110, that means there's 60 cm cube of carbon dioxide. So the first part was that 250 cm cube was produced. Volume decreases to 170. So that means when water is removed, from 170, the volume decreases to 110. And at the end of the day, you're left with 110. So that 110 is the unreacted oxygen. So is this part clear? Ye clear hai saro ko? Safa, Amna, Risha, is this clear? Rizwan?
Yes, sir.
Acha, so that means out of the 200, 110 is still remaining. That means the amount of oxygen that actually took part in the reaction was just 90 cm cube. The amount of carbon dioxide that was produced was 60 cm cube. And the amount of water that was produced was 80 cm cube. Now, based on this, you can find the whole number ratio. It's 20, 90, 60, and 80. So what's the whole number ratio? It's going to be 1. One of this reacts with 4.5 of O2 and produces 3 CO2 and 4 H2Os. So that is the ratio that you're going to get, the whole number ratio. Remember, for comparison purposes, the first one should be 1. So 20 ratio, 90 ratio, 60 ratio, 80, that translates to 1 ratio, 4.5 ratio, 3 ratio, 4. So that means one molecule produces 3 CO2. So the value of X is basically 3. And one molecule produces 4 H2Os. So that means the coefficient Y by 2 should be 4, which basically means Y should be equal to 8. So the answer is going to be C3H8. That's the formula of the hydrocarbon. So is this clear? Clear is our
Yes, sir.
So and they will probably ask this in the next step. So complete the equation for the complete combustion. We did that, and we were able to find the answers. Remember, sometimes just for helping you out, if you're unable to calculate, remember to use this box only if you're unable to calculate. Otherwise, don't use the values that they're mentioning. Now, the next one is kind of similar. Again, in this case, there is 25 cm cube of a gaseous sample P, which is a hydrocarbon CXHY. So the volume is 20 cm cube. So you got 20 cm cube. And it reacts with again 200 cm cube of excess oxygen. And the final volume that's produced under the same condition as the gaseous sample. So the final volume is, they've told us that it's 150. So what does that 150 contain? It contains your products, but water is going to be a liquid. So it's not going to be a gaseous sample. So water at 37 degrees centigrade, water is going to be a liquid. So that means it contains carbon dioxide plus the unreacted O2. So it contains the unreacted O2 as well. Now, when he treated the mixture with concentrated alkali to absorb the carbon dioxide, this 150 cm cube mixture, its volume decreases to 50 cm cube. So that means that out of this 150, 100 cm cube is carbon dioxide, and what's left at the end is the 50 cm cube of unreacted oxygen. So once he removed all the carbon dioxide, the volume has decreased to 100 cm cube. So that means whatever is left is the unreacted oxygen. So out of 200 cm³ that you're adding, 50 cm³ is still left. So that means only 150 cm³ is taking part. And the amount of carbon dioxide that's produced is 100. The amount of water, I don't have any information about that. So, but if I calculate the whole number ratio, I don't know what the last one is, but if I calculate the whole number ratio, it's going to be 1:7.5, I think. Ratio 5. So that means the value of x is coming out to be 5. And the value of x plus y by 4, I mean, this thing over here, it's coming out to be 7.5. And x has a value of 5. So that means you plug in that, y/4 would become, subtract 5 from this, it's going to be, I mean, get the x on the other side. So it becomes 2.5 and y becomes 10. So it's basically C5H10, which is an alkene. Is this clear?
Sir, can you repeat how oxygen is 150 cm³?
The oxygen, how oxygen is 150 cm³. Remember, he told us that the amount of oxygen that was initially added was 200 cm³, but that's in excess. But then he said when the reaction, when the gaseous sample after the burning, he said that the total volume is 150 cm³ that contained your products, carbon dioxide and the unreacted oxygen. It did not have water in it because at this temperature, water is a liquid. And then when he removed the carbon dioxide from this 150 cm³ mixture, the volume decreases to 50. So we figured out that out of the 150, if you remove carbon dioxide, the volume decreases to 50. So that means the amount of oxygen that's left at the end is 50 cm³. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
So इसका मतलब ये कि if you're adding 200 initially, and there's still 50 cm³ of oxygen still left at the end, even after combustion. So that means the amount of oxygen that's actually reacting is 150. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So then the next thing that you're going to have is let's do a similar question.
Sir,
हाँ.
सर ये जो इस क्वेश्चन जो है जो कंबशन एनालिसिस वाले ये सारे इसी फॉर्मेट में आएंगे?
Mostly इसी format में आते हैं, but sometimes they might mix PVG to inerty with it. ठीक है, but mostly it's going to be they're going to be very similar. ठीक है. But the अगला वाला भी it's this 10 cm³ of A, which is the unknown hydrocarbon. ठीक है. So this one is 10 cm³. You should know what the equation is. It's going to be x CO2 plus y by 2 H2O. Achha, so the thing is this 10 cm³ of gas A mixed at room temperature with 50 cm³ of oxygen, which I think is in excess. And it's exploded, so 40 cm³ of gas remained. So total gas at the end, that is 40 cm³. So what is the total gas as a temperature? What is the temperature at which they're doing that? It's happening at room temperature. So 40 cm³ of gas remained. So that means this 40 cm³ is carbon dioxide plus the unreacted oxygen, O2. So 40 cm³ are these two things. Using this 40 cm³ of gas was shaken with an excess of alkali potassium hydroxide. 30 cm³ of gas still remained. So what remains at the end is this 30 cm³ oxygen. 10 cm³ of carbon dioxide that is produced gets absorbed by the alkali. Remember, carbon dioxide is an acidic gas and it's always removed using an alkali. So 40 cm³ gases remain at the end and carbon dioxide got removed and the volume decreases to 30. So the 30 that's remaining at the end is the oxygen. So that means the amount of carbon dioxide that's produced is 10. No idea about the water, but I know that 30 cm³ of oxygen is still remaining at the end. So out of this 50, only 20 cm³ is reacting, because 30 cm³ of oxygen is still remaining at the end. Is this clear? ये clear है?
सर
हाँ जी.
सर H2O का तो आपने वैसे इग्नोर किया क्योंकि वो रूम टेम्परेचर है तो इसलिए वो लिक्विड होगा.
हाँ, क्योंकि वो गैस ही होगा. ठीक है, because remember वो रेशियो वाला जो पार्ट है ना, you can only do that for gases. अच्छा, अब ये कि the next part is find the ratio. It's 10 ratio 20 ratio 10. So it's basically 1 ratio 2 ratio 1. So that means the value of x is 1, or x plus y by 4 की value क्या है? That's coming out to be 2 according to the ratio. 50 में से 20. So x is already 1. So if I substitute that, y by 4 would become equal to 1 and y would become equal to 4. So that means this particular gas is methane gas, because x comes out to be 1 and y comes out to be 4. Clear है? क्लियर है कि नहीं?
सर
हाँ जी.
सर थोड़ा सा स्टक सा नजर आ रहा था जब आप y की वर्किंग कर रहे थे, वो फिर से जरा एक्सप्लेन करें.
ये तो क्लियर है ना कि ये 1 ratio 2 ratio 1 बन रहा है ना, तो x is 1
या
और ये 2 बन रहा है ना, तो इसका मतलब x plus y by 4 is equal to 2. ठीक है,
ओके सर. यस
और इसको आप फिर वो कर सकते हो सॉल्व. x की वैल्यू पहले ही पता है, it's 1 उठा के उधर ले गए तो it's going to be 1 as well, and y by 4 is going to come, तो y would come out to be 4. So CH4 है, मीथेन है. ठीक है, जिसकी हम बात कर रहे हैं. अच्छा, अब ज्यादा क्वेश्चन इसी तरह होंगे. The rest would also be very similar. Empirical formula क्या आ गया? We can, अच्छा, we can do a few. अच्छा, so we're done with combustion analysis. ठीक है, most combustion analysis, just remember the equation, ये जो CXHY वाली है. ठीक है, just remember that equation. Now moles and percentage.
सर.
हाँ,
सर वो redox वाला करवा सकते हैं जिसके अंदर बैलेंस भी आ रही थी पिछले क्वेश्चंस की तरह.
वो तो करते हैं अभी, वो एंड में करते हैं, मतलब इसके एंड में, मोल्स के एंड में. ठीक है, अच्छा सर, लिमिटिंग एक्सेस. रिमेंबर इसका रूल क्या था? लेट्स डू दीज क्वेश्चंस. नेवर टू यूज मोल्स ऑफ द रिएक्टेंट दैट्स इन एक्सेस, क्योंकि वो सारे moles, all of them are not actually taking part in the reaction. You always use the moles of the limiting reactant. That's it. तो अभी equation दिया हुआ है, and they've told us that there is 30 grams of both. इसकी भी 30 grams है, and this one is also 30 grams. तो moles निकालो दोनों के. What would be the moles of this? Moles would be mass divided by MR, so it's going to be 30 divided by the MR of ethanol, I think is 46. You would have to check 2 carbons, that's 24. Plus there is 1 oxygen, plus there is 6 hydrogens. And ethanoic acid moles are going to be 30 divided by 60. तो उसके moles है. So we can find the moles. It's going to be 30 divided by 46. So 30 divided by 46. So this one, the first one is 0.5652 moles. And the second one is obviously 0.5 moles. But now which one is the limiting reactant? Like
0.5.
If I want to find the moles of the product, I'm going to use the limiting reactant, which is going to be excess wala use nahi karna. For 1:1, it's very easy. 1:1 mein it's very easy. 0.5 will only react with 0.5 because it's 1:1. So the amount of ester that's going to be produced is going to be according to the ratio 0.5 moles. So you're always going to use limiting reactant moles, and then you can find the mass. Mass would be moles multiplied by MR, and the MR for this is 88. I think this is 88. 4 carbons, that's 48, plus 32, that's 80. 32 is 2 oxygens, plus 3 is 6, plus 2, that's 88. So that comes out to be 44 grams. So theoretically, this is what you're getting, 44 grams. But he's saying that it's heated under reflux, 22 grams of ethyl ethanoate are formed. So this mass over here is your theoretical or your calculated mass. The actual experimental value that he's giving us is कि भाई खाली 22 बन रहा है, इससे ज़्यादा बन ही नहीं रहा. So what is the yield? What's the formula of yield? Yield is
Actual divided by theoretical.
ठीक है, into 100, which in this case would actually come out to be 50%. So the actual is 22, theoretical, which is you doing your calculations, that's 44 into 100, and that would give you 50%, which is going to be your answer. TK, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा उधर एक ही था प्लस redox आ गया. कहाँ पे percentage? So we can do these ones. ये थोड़ी सी कर लेते हैं balancing equations. Now you've got this question. He's saying self-igniting place contains Mg3P2. I see these are balancing equation questions. We just add one for moles for limiting excess. Now there's diphosphane, which is spontaneously flammable in air. Which equation that includes the formation of diphosphane is balanced? So he's saying that this thing Mg3P2 reacts with water, produces P2H4. So P2H4 has to be there. So it is there, and which is a spontaneously flammable in air. Okay, that's fine. Which equation correctly forms? So nothing else is mentioned. So can you spot which one is the balance equation? Okay, it's Mg3 B. Let me just have a look. Is it balanced or not? Count the hydrogens. I don't think neither look hydrogen is 12. Over here it's 2. Plus
सर आंसर बी होगा इसका.
what's wrong with A? Are you just checking the balancing or what?
Yes, sir.
Achha, so ठीक है, but that means in the first one, right? So ठीक है, that makes sense. It could be B. Okay, I've got 12 hydrogens over here. It's 6 plus 4 plus 2. Over here, the hydrogens are not balanced. 6 plus 4, that's it. So that is definitely not balanced. What about C? Is it balanced? Is C balanced?
No, so the amount of hydrogen in products are more and reactions are less.
कितने हो गए? 2 into 6, 12. 12 plus 4, that's 16. Plus 6 is 22 hydrogen. So that is wrong. क्योंकि यहाँ पे 24 है. ठीक है. Last वाले में, what's wrong with the last one?
Sir, the hydrogen number on the product side is very much more than the reaction side.
ठीक है, वो काउंट कर लेते हैं. That's 24 इस साइड पे. वहाँ पे है कि
So,
12.
so phosphorus भी नहीं balanced.
हाँ, hydrogen's actually balanced है मेरे ख्याल से. 24 hydrogens and
Phosphorus is not balanced.
हाँ, 4, 3, 12. 12 plus 12. Hydrogen's balanced. Phosphorus is not balanced. Because it's 2 into 2, that's 4 phosphoruses, and over here there is 6 phosphoruses. So so the only balanced equation that you have is this one. अच्छा, फिर अगला वाला वो कह रहा है कि tricky question. In a historically famous experiment, Waller heated inorganic ammonium cyanate. So he's heating ammonium cyanate. So ammonium and cyanate. और वो कह ही रहा है कि when he's heating it in the absence of air, there's only one product of the reaction was organic urea, and no other products were formed. So the only thing that you're getting is CONH2 twice. That is the only product that is formed. So what is the formula of this cyanate, and how do you figure this out? उसने कहा इसको heat किया तो बस यही बना. So what is the formula and the charge of cyanate? And that's it. That is the only information that is provided. कोई idea किसी को? How to do this one? B. देख लेते हैं, can it be B or not? Now the thing is that we don't know what cyanate is, right? We know what ammonium is. Ammonium is NH4 and it has a charge of +1. So cyanate, I have no idea what cyanate is. I'm going to call it X. And it's decomposing to form CO NH2 twice. Now, first thing is, okay, will there be in the formula? Will there be 2 ammonium ions or one ammonium ion? क्या होगा? Remember, दोनों sides balance होनी चाहिए. So,
Sir, 2.
And why would there be two ammoniamines? इस साइड में बताओ, how many hydrogens do you have? 4 है ना?
So,
तो अब 4 हाइड्रोजन से एक ही अमोनियमाइन बन सकता है ना, so there must be just one ammoniamine. क्योंकि अगर मैं 2 कर देता हूं तो I'll have 8 hydrogens on this side. तो यहाँ पे it won't be balanced. ये बात क्लियर है? So there are 4 hydrogens on this side. So there's got to be 4 hydrogens on this side. तो ammoniamines जो होंगे वो तो फिर एक ही होगा, मतलब there's only one ammoniamine. Clear है ये बात? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा फिर तो अगर मैं, तो इसका मतलब है क्योंकि 2 अमोनियमाइन तो बनेंगे नहीं, क्योंकि उसके लिए आपको 8 हाइड्रोजन चाहिए, ठीक है, दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल. तो पीछे फिर एक्स क्या रह गया, मतलब क्या चीज अब मिसिंग है? सी, जो चीज अभी तक हमने बीच में ऐड नहीं की, जस्ट सो एक्स इज बेसिकली व्हाट, the leftover items. What are the leftover items? There's C, there's O, and there's एक N भी बचा हुआ है ना, क्योंकि यहाँ पे 2 N थे ना, तो बैलेंस होना चाहिए ना. तो if there are 2 N's on this side, there should be 2 N's on the other side. If there are 2 N's on this side, there should be 2 N's on this side. ठीक है, ये clear है this thing? अच्छा, अब सिर्फ एक जो चीज रहेगी है वो है कि इसका चार्ज क्या होगा? व्हाट इज द चार्ज, -1 और -2? But if this is +1, then this would be -1. Clear है? तो मैं फिर से सारा रिपीट कर रहा हूँ कि you had organic urea forming from some substance, which is this. We knew it had ammonium in it, and it's 4+1. तो अगर ये बनाना है, there should just be one ammonium ion. And to make this, you would need a carbon and an oxygen and one extra nitrogen as well. And if this is the positive ion, the other one must be the negative ion. So which is why the option is A. Ye clear question?
Yes.
So now you have, we can ignore that. I said this one as well. Steel making process. How many moles of calcium oxide react with 1 mole of P4O10? So how many moles of calcium oxide react with 1 mole of P4O10? और उससे बताया हुआ, the only product of this reaction that's given is the salt that is produced. So that's the only product of the reaction, Ca3 PO4 twice. Now all we have to do is we have to balance this equation. So there are 3 calciums. हो गए 3 calciums. There are 2 phosphoruses on this side, and there are 4 on this side. So there should be 2 of these. Calciums would become 6. Now the P and Ca are balanced. I mean, there are a total of 4 P's over here, and there's 4 P's over here. There's a total of 6 calciums over here. On this side, there's 6 calcium. So now it's balanced. So how many moles of calcium oxide would react with P4O10? That's going to be 6. ठीक है, clear? ठीक है, बाकी सारों को clear है?
sir,
हाँ जी.
sir, question पर repeat कर दें.
नहीं, बस उससे कहा था कि there's P4O10 getting removed by reacting it with calcium oxide. So we knew that P4O10 was reacting with calcium oxide, and the only product of the reaction was calcium phosphate. उसका भी formula दिया हुआ था. The only thing you had to do was balance the equation. Once you balance the equation, तो कहता how many moles of calcium oxide, ये जो moles है, would react with P4O10. P4O10 ये, तो 6 moles react करेंगे ना.
Yeah.
अच्छा फिर एक ammonium sulfate in nitrogenous fertilizers in the soil can be slowly oxidized by air producing this. So ammonium sulfate, remember ammonium sulfate. And he's saying that can be slowly oxidized by air and it's reacting with O2. And it's producing all of this. It's producing sulfuric acid, nitric acid, and water. So sulfuric acid is being produced. Nitric acid is being produced. And water is being produced. So anyways, this question is, it requires redox balancing. So I'll kind of do this redox balancing here. Okay, you've got this reaction. And you've got to balance this equation somehow. So पहले तो कि what is the oxidation state of N in NH4 plus 1? Yeah, how would you calculate this? N ka nahi pata, so that's X. Hydrogen is always plus 1. And there are 4 of them. And the total charge is plus 1. So अगर आप इसको solve करते हो ना, you'll get, I think, what you'll get is -3. So that means N over here is -3. Is this clear? वो SO4 का भी देख लो. SO4 is -2. So S is unknown, that's X. Oxygen is -2 times 4. And the total charge should be equal to -2. So if you solve for X, it comes out to be 6. So sulfur over here is +6. H or O का हमें पता है. H is always +1, O is always -2. अच्छा ये clear है यहाँ तक Rizwan? Is this clear? Oswald suffice. A neutral element is going to be 0. So that has 0 oxidation state. It's this one over here is again SO4 -2. So sulfur is +6. O is -2, H is +1. That's obvious. So HNO3 mein you have to find N. So how do you find N? +1 plus X -2, oxygen is -2 times 3 should all add up to be 0. And if you solve for X, X comes out to be equal to +5. So anyways, H and O wo mein pata hai. So who's getting oxidized out of all these elements? कौन हो रहा है oxidize?
N, sir?
ठीक है. N goes from -3, मतलब यहाँ से यहाँ पे जा रहा है. So it goes from -3 to +5. So that's a loss of 8 electrons, right? So 8 electrons are being lost. Or ठीक है, so 8 electrons are being lost. And there are actually 2 ends over here. यानी इसका मतलब है अगर इसको बैलेंस करें ना, इसको अगर वैसे ही बैलेंस करें, just balance the ends. There's 2 ends over here क्योंकि it's NH4 twice. दूसरी साइड पे भी 2 ends है. So one end is going from -3 to +5. So the other one is also doing that. So they're in total losing how many electrons? They're losing a total of. ये मुझे बस पहला क्लियर कर दो कि ये हमने गलत किया है. This is actually +3, not -3. क्योंकि इसको अगर सॉल्व करोगे it's going to come out to be. नहीं, it is actually -3. नहीं, -3 is fine. So -3 is fine. अच्छा, anyways, तो ये 8 electrons थे, लेकिन now it's going to be 16 electrons. So listen to this again, that n is going from -3 to the other side, which is +5. तो -3 से +5, that's 8 electrons being lost. और क्योंकि आपके पास 2 n है यहाँ पे फॉर्मूले के अंदर, तो one of them loses 8 electrons, the other one also loses 8 electrons, so the total electrons lost is 16. So who's going to gain electrons? If you look carefully, oxygen is the one that's gaining electrons, because oxygen was initially, it was 0. Over here it's -2, over here it's -2, over here is also -2. So oxygen is the one that's gaining 2 electrons. क्योंकि पहले तो वो 0 था, but now it's gained 2 electrons everywhere. Well, this oxygen turns into, it shows up over here, so it's everywhere. So oxygen is the one that gains 2 electrons. So in total, if this is losing 16 electrons, the other one must be gaining 16 electrons. So there should be in total 8 oxygens. You should have 8 oxygens. That means 4 O2s. 4 O2s are going to give you 8 oxygens, and the answer is 4. So I'm just going to repeat everything. Remember, in a redox reaction, the number of electrons that are lost and gained should be equal. So यहाँ पे we figure out that NH4+1 changes into HNO3, goes from -3 to +5, loses 16 electrons, and there are 2 ends. I mean, it loses 8 electrons, but there are 2 nitrogens, so they in total lose 16 electrons. The other one should gain 16 electrons. I figured out that oxygen is the one that's gaining electrons because it's 0 initially, and now on the other side it's turning into -2. So oxygen is the one that's gaining electrons, but just 2 of them, because it's -2 over here, -2 over here, -2 over here. So 0 to -2, that's a gain of 2 electrons. Now, if I were to gain 16 electrons, because 16 electrons are lost, this has to be multiplied by 8, which means you should have 8 oxygens. And you can have 8 oxygens when you have 4 O2 molecules. So the answer is 4, क्योंकि उसने कहा था कि इसके मोल्स बताओ ऑक्सीजन के, तो 4 आ रहा है. क्लियर है ये क्वेश्चन?
Yes, sir.
चलो फिर बस कल और इस तरह करते हैं, ठीक है? ओके देन, टेक केयर, अल्लाह हाफिज.